So we are using loadless timers just to remove that sort of the element of like PC hardware.
We are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death.
All right, so we are getting into the opening shmup section here. And for about the first minute and 45 seconds, there's not going to be too many or any really relevant inputs from these players while they just wait for the opening sort of cutscene. This section is not like what we'll be seeing for the majority of the run. The most of the run will be seen from a sort of third-person hack and slash style perspective, but there are a couple of these shmup sections scattered throughout the run.
Yeah, there's this one here, then there's another short one, about 20 minutes in, and then we get a nice break for the next, like, 40 minutes or so after that.
Then destroy the Goliath-class unit by any means necessary, and gather what data you can. Understood.
12H down. All units activate manual mode and rely on visual to evade.
Already engaged.
Alright, so you're going to see now that they can move a little bit, the one little bit of action we get in the beginning here is you're going to see them intentionally get hit by some lasers. The reason that they do that is to burn recoveries. Now during the prologue they give us a bunch of recoveries for free, but later on when we're going to open the menu to use buffs, it takes a little bit of time to have to scroll past the recoveries, so we just burn them here while there's not much else to do to save that little bit of menuing time. So the goal in this shmup section is just to kill all the enemies as fast as possible. Frequently you'll see both runners killing them while they're still off screen if they can. And just they want to kill one wave as quickly as they can to get the next wave to spawn. I'd be surprised if these runners ended the shmup more than a couple of seconds separated, and more than likely they'll be extremely close.
Yeah, there's one wave where you kind of want to use an AI ship to shoot the enemies that come in on one side, but we'll see what happens. Looks like Kanaris did get it. I'm not sure if Fullest even went for it. It's kind of hard to see.
So now they're changing to a little bit of a different configuration. You'll see that they can now aim and move in independent directions as well as do this melee attack. This form was my favorite playing casually. I enjoyed all the freedom you have, almost feeling like you know, a Gundam or something like that.
Yeah, it's really Gundam-esque.
Alright, so at some point during this opening shmup, if they haven't already, I actually haven't quite seen, both runners are going to change their weapon sets to make sure they're on weapon set 2. And that's the setup for the ground combat that's going to be coming up. Ground combat in this game is mainly done with what we call a damage glitch. And I'll explain that when you get to see it, but they do need to be on weapon set 2 to make use of the damage glitch.
And along with the weapon set stuff, later on they will change weapon set 1 to be the same as weapon set 2, but in this prologue section it just wastes time to do that. There's no real big benefit in it.
Yeah, so you see them there sort of pre-positioning to kill these enemies as they fly on screen for the left, while they use the pod fire, or they use the fire from the ship to kill the enemies on the far right side of the screen. Just little bits of optimization, like using the melee attacks to kill enemies right as they appear from the top here as well. Alright, so now that we're on the ground, we're going to see them throw out that spinning sword. That's done by using a dash immediately followed by the heavy. They're dashing for such a short amount of time, you probably won't even notice that there's a dash on most of them. And for whatever reason, we're not really sure, it does 5 times the damage of a normal heavy sword throw. And it stays out and spins and continues to deal damage. So it's going to be the main combat for the majority of the run, and it really enables us to just shred through combat even as we get really underleveled.
It's a very nice first silo from Kanaris. Fullest looks like he's about 5 seconds behind. There is a bit of RNG coming up a bit later, so we could see a lead change very easily just due to luck. And this boss fight against the Saw here, you want to damage it down to a little over about half of its health, and then it'll start this pod program dialogue, and then you have to wait that out before the cutscene will play. So just damaging the Saw as soon as possible is what you want.
Okay, so Kanaris here going for a really recently found trick. This is Crane Skip. He's attempting to clip out of bounds here, and not being very successful at it. Fullest going for the tried and true Crane Skip, where he just does a high jump onto this piece of geometry and gets up onto the crane. Crane Skip's been a part of the run for a long time, so I'm not surprised to see Fullest go for it, but Kanaris is taking the time to learn a strat that at its best saves only a couple of seconds. He definitely lost time on that one.
Yeah, looked like it took him maybe 5 tries or so, and looks like he lost about 3 seconds to Fullest there.
Alright, so here you're going to see some flying enemies come on Kanaris' screen. This is actually a really interesting section of the prologue. There's a real tension between how long... you saw Kanaris try to group them up for a laser, and there's a tension between how long you want to try to spend to get them to line up for a perfect laser that kills as many as possible, and if you just want to fire off that laser and get on with the rest of your combat.
Yeah, it looks like neither one of these guys had great lasers. Sometimes they just don't group up very well. Kanaris here on Bridge Skip gets it first try. This is the hardest skip in Prologue. Fullest needing... Ooh, he's going to have to take an extra attempt or 2 here.
Yeah, Bridge Skip, a deceivingly difficult trick. Sort of looks like they just jump up there, but the timing is actually quite precise and is sort of a little bit of an obstacle when new players start to learn the run.
Yeah, the input window is pretty tight for that trick, and then we also sort of missed these 2 little out-of-bounds clips. Nothing major.
These guys are too fast.
Yeah,
but yeah, they're just clipping out of bounds to take a little bit of a faster beeline. So another important part of combat that you're going to see these runners do, especially on the bigger enemies like those medium bipeds, is taunting. If you flash your light on and off a bunch of times, it'll make the enemies mad, and they will both take and receive extra damage. Ooh, yeah. And Kanaris here going for Angle's swag. And he gets it first try. So that's a strat that was recently found that actually at its best only saves less than a second and is quite difficult to pull off. So, ooh, Fullest is gonna do it too.
Maybe they, I don't know, moved it somewhere?
Nice, very nice from both these runners. That's a pretty difficult trick for very little time save, so I was not expecting both of them to go for it.
Yeah, very, very nicely done.
There should be another facility across that bridge. It's a bit of a hike.
Just while sort of this cutscene or the slow walk's going on, taunting is going to be used in pretty much every single boss fight and a lot of other of these small waves of enemies as well. Kanaris was trying to damage the saw as it actually travels across the ground there. He was not able to get enough hits in, so he was forced to use a melee buff just to guarantee that he did enough damage to progress to the next phase. And you can see Fullest actually did get those hits in that Kanaris was going for, so he did not need that melee buff.
Alright, so we're coming up on angles here for both these runners. This first section of angles is actually completely timed. Nothing the runners do short of... Nah, I think nothing the runners do at all is actually going to speed up or slow down this section. And what they're gonna try to do is just hope for good RNG in the next section. They're gonna throw down a little bit of damage, but it's extremely easy to get angles to a threshold, so neither runner is particularly concerned about being too optimal here.
Yeah, it's just sort of like a nice little keep your hands warmed up for the sort of kind of high input combat later on. Those 3 vertical bars you see over the pod is what happens when you hold down the pod program button. It gives you a slow motion effect where it slows down everything around 2B. So he's just using that just to keep Angle's arms on the ground longer so he can just deal more damage. Not essential to do this, but it's just something to do.
What's your status?
This is the target. I'm going to destroy it.
Alright, so Kanaris here getting clapped, which loses about how much time do you think, MT?
Just a few seconds over the fastest one, I believe. Maybe like 3 seconds slower than the optimal attack, but that's perfectly acceptable.
Whew, okay. Fullest getting a ranged attack here. All the ranged attacks are good. The main thing they didn't want is there's 2 attacks that angles can do that actually lose 23 seconds if you get it, which is pretty much the biggest time loss you can get from RNG in the run. So I'm really glad to see neither runner being unlucky and getting that.
Yeah, people do reset over that since it's so early in, but it's very frustrating to get punches in a race and just losing all that time, especially when it's one that'll be as close as this one.
So important to note that Fullest actually going on the right pipe and Kanaris on the left. So we have a battle of the pipes in this.
Yeah, left pipe, of course, is the best pipe.
Ooh, we also got a commentary battle because I'm a right piper over here. So.
All right. Well, looks like we each. so looks like you are rooting for Fullest now.
Looks like I actually am rooting for Fullest now. All right, so Kanaris here doing a quick little double lift to get up angles. A double lift is when you do a lift right up against an incline, and your feet will actually touch the ground, and the game will give you both your jumps and it'll give you your lift back because it thinks you touch the ground, it thinks you're fully grounded. So that allows you to do another lift and just gain some extra height.
Very, very useful technique used in quite a few places.
Yeah, we'll point them out when we see some more double lifts.
Kanaris having an extremely good ninja section here where these robots sort of drop from the sky. We'll see how quickly Fullest can do it.
Do you know why we call them ninjas?
Well, they sort of drop out of the sky, and they also, it seems like these like to jump away from your attacks more often than the other spawns. So that's just what they've been called. Fullest did have quite a bit more time loss there. So Kanaris pulling a little bit farther ahead.
Kanaris in the chat. I'm hoping that means... important to note about this section, usually this section right here is considered pretty boring by the runners with not much that you can do. However, oh my god, Kanaris. Kanaris is going for a strat where he is tanking the missiles intentionally to try to adjust the timing of Angle's attacks. Doing this strat, he actually died earlier in the tournament, which loses the entirety of your prologue progress, so my heart was kind of skipping beats watching him go for that here.
Yeah, we're waiting for a very specific section of dialogue, and once that dialogue happens, that's when Angles can do his sort of scripted punch to progress you onto the next phase.
Did you see that, MT, that the death from Kanaris in one of his prior races against Dotto?
I did not.
It was crazy. I mean, we were freaking out.
Ooh.
Alright, so 1432 prologue from Kanaris. Can you help me put that into context, MT, on how good of a prologue that is?
I believe his best prologue is a 1403. So I'm not sure what happened at the end of that fight. Normally you'll see, like on Fullest's side, that Ingalls takes 3 hits and then he explodes. It was like Kanaris on the 3rd one, he got the long animation and then had to wait and then do another heavy. Not quite sure what happened there. But he did lose some time.
Alright, so this section here, we've got a couple of cutscene skips, a lot of mashing, and some menuing. You know, I always like to point out that if you accidentally set your volume to something you weren't intending, it can kind of tilt you a little bit, but other than that, not too much danger going on here.
Okay. Okay, one. Morning.
So, we're going to start to get into the section of the run where we use a slightly different movement technique. So before this section, we've been using dash chaining, which is you do a dash, which is our fastest piece of movement we have available. But if you hold the dash, you're going to start going into a sprint, which is a little bit slower. So you'll do another dash. But now, at the end of Prologue, all our items, all our recoveries, and even our heavy sword have actually been taken away from us, which gives us bare fists on the light. And doing dash punches is actually going to be faster than chaining dashes. Kanaris here still chaining dashes for a little bit longer, but you'll see that movement coming up soon. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, not much of a difference, but it is slightly faster, although the inputs are definitely a lot harder. And if you mess up one of those dash punches, you're basically losing the time save that you got from the last 5 or 6.
Yeah, definitely. So both runners also doing, I think you just saw it on full screen, doing a partner dialogue cancel. You're going to see a couple of those during the run, so I wanted to make sure I get that explained. So you saw them both SD, that was just to make sure they stand still, and then talk to 9S. When you talk to 9S, you can actually move around, you can slow walk around a little bit, and what they do is they slow walk into another dialogue trigger, and the dialogue triggers cancel each other out, so that they don't have to slow walk during the other dialogue trigger.
Yeah, it's very, very useful. Very, very useful bit of tech that is used in quite a few places. So whenever you see them talking to 9S or sort of opening up some dialogue and jumping at like the same time, that's just in order to skip some just any sort of dialogue, really.
So in this shmup, we've got a new tool, which is the pod program. That's those radial missiles you see coming out. If we get right up close to things, we can usually get all the missiles to hit them, which does a massive amount of damage. So it's an important part of the flight unit combat. Saw Fullest getting that just quick insta-kill on the spinner.
Yeah, Kanaris having a bit of trouble with one of those fidget spinners. I think he was a little bit too far away, or he pod programmed a little too early. The intended strat there is to have all those missiles hit it and kill it with just the pod program.
Okay, so you're going to see Kanaris there do a dash punch into the cutscene trigger. All the cutscene triggers, or almost all the cutscene triggers in this game, actually have a little bit of forced slow walk in the beginning, but if you just do anything that's sort of locking your movement, a dash punch, some sort of sword swing, or even a jump, you can avoid getting that slow walk and save a little bit of time.
Yeah, so if you ever see 2B doing a slow walk and then a cutscene starts, it's just probably because they were a little late or missed an input or something. There's one coming up right here on Kanaris' screen. He's going to do a dash punch into that cutscene.
Alright, so Kanaris is going to pick up some quests here. It's mostly just some mashing. We're going to have to do a couple of fetch quests so that we can progress the story. Fullest a little bit behind. Kanaris already starting to show his prowess. Kanaris definitely a heavy favorite to win the tournament. Current world record holder. An all-around insanely fast speedrunner who's been improving the world record even over the course of this tournament.
Yeah, I believe he has had the world record for this category for I think a little over a year now, so very impressive.
Operator 60 to 2B.
Alright, gonna do a little bit of movement to jump over this barricade.
This is 2B. Nothing to report.
pick up some
hear.
items.
Say, how's the weather on Earth today? Good?
It's fine.
Yeah, just some
Does
fetch
that
quests
question
going
have
on.
anything to do with our operation?
No
Not really.
real
I just figured it
crazy
might feel nice to
movement or
have
combat or anything.
That should be enough.
Kanaris pulling out a
Let's
little
get this
bit of
back to the
pod
trader.
slow-mo that MT explained
Find out if
earlier,
this claim must be
just to make sure
central
that
or
medium
big
biped doesn't
plans,
troll
too.
him and hit him or cancel one of his dashes, make it be a perfect evade.
Kanaris plunging a little bit too early there, but not quite making it over the barrier you'll see on full screen. He'll hopefully make it over in just that one plunge.
Ooh, okay. So Kanaris almost got
Okay, that's everything the supply
almost
trader
made a
asked
mistake
for.
there. So you're looking to collect 3 items from those enemies there.
Man, these
But
chores are a
sometimes you
pain
can
in
get
the
2
butt,
of the
huh?
same
The
one.
resistance is a valuable
So
ally
you have to
your
make sure
help.
you
By
watch the
helping
mini
them,
map for
we
when the red
also
circle
help
disappears and
ourselves.
listen for
So
the
no,
sound.
I don't think
And
they're a
Kanaris
threat.
catching it there and going back to grab the 3rd unique item he needs.
Yeah, it's very easy to sort of have like tunnel vision, like focusing on like your movement and just totally not even realize that you kind of got trolled by the drops there.
Okay, so Kanaris is going to upgrade his sword here, and that does a ton for us in this speedrun. Upgrading the sword increases the attack speed and increases the damage. So not only is that going to help us do more damage in combat, but it's actually going to enable us to have a new, faster movement technique that we call dash swinging. So you could do dash swinging before you upgrade the sword, it's just not faster than dash chaining or dash punching. So you're going to see them do these long dashes, and then right at the end of their dash, they're going to do a heavy and get that spinning animation. And before the slow end of the spinning animation, they're going to cancel it with another dash. And this will be the movement for almost all of Fullest's run, pretty much all from this point on. And it'll be Kanaris' movement for a while until he does a pretty difficult strat to unlock himself a new form of movement.
Yeah, we'll see if he does manage to pull that trick off or not.
Yeah, we'll see if he manages to get it. He's been going for it in all his races I've seen so far, but he can always make a mistake. It's a really difficult trick. Or maybe, you know, Fullest will put the, you know, he'll be a little bit feel pressured by Fullest and not want the potential time loss he could get from failing it, and skip it altogether.
Yeah, I believe he said that he was gonna sort of see how he felt when he reached that point of the run. So we'll see.
Doing some buying here. We buy some recoveries to make sure we can keep our health topped off. We buy some buffs to help increase the amount of damage we do. Using a buff increases the corresponding damage height by 50%. And we're also buying some things that you're not going to see come into play until a lot later, the resilience chip and animal bait.
You don't let anything get in your way, do you?
And then after the shops, they're going to activate this transporter, and then they're going to just do an out-of-bounds clip here. Just allows us to take a straighter path to the desert barricade, where they are going to do a second out-of-bounds.
Yeah, so there's 2 versions of the skip. I believe both runners will go for the more difficult version that saves more time. So they're going to clip out next to that barricade so they don't have to watch it explode. And then they're going to skirt the sort of seam there. And that's so that they can avoid a cutscene trigger that's at the mouth of that cave. Kanaris getting it beautifully. Saves a couple of seconds over the easy version where you just go back in bounds right after the barricade.
Yeah, definitely a sort of tricky strat. That's one reason why, as you can see on full screen, sometimes the floor is there, sometimes it's not. You really have to memorize exactly where the collision actually is. So can be a very tricky strat, and since it doesn't, saves, 4 seconds maybe.
We've got enemies approaching.
Of course, somebody like Kanaris is going to be doing all of the time-saving things that he can, but definitely is a slightly risky trick.
Yeah, in fact, avoiding out once like Fullest did actually makes it slower than the easy version of the trick, so a little unfortunate there. So you're going to see these runners, they both, Kanaris did and Fullest coming up on, they're going out of their way, they're taking not a good beeline in order to grab Pod C, And that's going to be important for several sections coming up in the run, where having the additional pod will let us use an additional pod program to help speed up some combat.
It's heading for that rocky
And Kanaris plunging against that rocky wall there, right as our friend Don Burrows was diving. Usually once he dives underground, you're forced to slow walk, but if you plunge against that wall, it lets you travel a lot farther towards where that next cutscene is, saving quite a bit of time.
It's a trick we know is stupid rock, because the rock just sort of behaves kind of stupidly when you plunge against it.
Exactly.
So
but normally, yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So Kanaris coming up on an out of bounds skip right here, one of my favorites in the run, known as Desert Housing Skip. He does a quick clip out. You might actually think this floor and this area looks intended, but is absolutely not. There's a lot of invisible floor, like you're going to see Kanaris go right through over here. Skipping over a scary pit that you can soft lock if you mess up that long jump. And then coming over here to get a necessary trigger over by the tunnel, and then going right over towards the platform, going below the platform to trigger it to fall, and entering into the Atom Pit. That was a really condensed series of tricks, and a really cool part of the run.
Yeah, Kanaris is just so good at this game, it's kind of hard to keep up with everything. But he also changed his weapon set 1 to be the same as weapon set 2 with the short sword and the heavy slot, so now he can throw out that damage glitch, that spitting sword, and then change weapon sets and throw out another one. Just increases overall damage.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different versions of this skip, increasing in difficulty and in time save. So new players will frequently void out after they get the trigger and then go in bounds. Both these runners, not only are they not voiding out, but they're not even bothering to land on the platform, instead going for the...
Ooh. Fullest clipping back inbound, so now he will have to skip this cutscene and then do some more movement to get to the platform. Not a major time loss, but...
a tilter.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, as speedrunners, these guys like to go fast, and I'm sure Fullest has not made that particular mistake in quite a long time. But you know, when you go for these precise little tricks like the platformless strat there, sometimes things happen.
Yeah, there's not much margin for error when you're going for the real high time save stuff sometimes.
So both these runners doing a little bit of menuing to switch their weapon set 1 to match weapon set 2, like MT mentioned earlier, and that's so we can actually do a double damage glitch. Ooh, Kanaris missing sword dodge, which we can talk about in a second here. But double damage glitch is basically if you switch the weapon set while you have one of those spinning swords out, you can actually throw out a different spinning sword with the other weapon set, even though it's the same sword. So you can actually have 2 damage glitches active at the same time for increased damage.
And now that Kanaris sort of missed that sword dodge skip, he's probably gonna have to do an additional. Ooh, okay, never mind. He actually managed to to get through that fine. Sometimes if Adam's taunt runs out, then you have to do an extra laser there just to skip an additional phase. But nice ending from Kanaris, even though he didn't get that one phase skip.
So the sword dodge skip that we've been talking about is basically if you damage Adam fast enough at the beginning of this fight after the first little cutscene, you can actually kind of stun lock him and prevent him from being able to go into that little mini cutscene where he, talks about dodging some swords. It's a little time save that Kanaris, I'm sure, does not miss very often. So.
Looks like we're safe.
Yeah, there are a few reasons for that. It's usually most of the time you just get it just by spamming attacks at him.
Adam.
Let's move to an area with
Adam.
so we can contact command.
But so the movement here is actually kind of deceptively tricky to get right. There's a lot of little things that Kanaris is trying to do. And he's coming up now on a box clip into a save scum. So he's pushing that box so that he can clip through the edge, but then he does a little dash there so that he can remain out of bounds and skirt the seam. He does it for a couple of reasons. One, it's just a better beeline. But 2, it actually allows him to not get caught in dialogue so that he can save and reload. You can't save while you're in a dialogue. And by reloading, it'll actually put him, instead of right back to where he saved, it'll put him back at that transporter that MT pointed out both runners grabbed earlier. which saves him some running time, but also, since we run this game with a loadless timer, meaning all the load screens do not count for your time, it actually saves even more time than it does RTA.
Yeah, definitely very good time save. We'll see if Fullest can manage to get it as quickly as Kanaris did. I think Kanaris managed to clip through second try, so we'll see what happens with Fullest.
2 tries, 3 tries, 4 tries. Oh no, Fullest, no! This is some spaghetti, guys. Oh,
Yeah.
Fullest is. Oh, he's gonna push the box just a little
Gonna try
bit
to
more.
push the box, yeah, a little bit farther out. There we go.
Yeah, it's deceptively precise how much you have to push the box. You can actually do it from a lot of different box pushes, but the angle you have to aim at changes, and since most runners are used to aiming for a certain angle, sometimes you'll have to see them go back and push the box a little bit more.
Kanaris with a nice plunge to a self-destruct to cancel the animation, but retain his momentum. So, very cool looking strat, just to get to the bottom of that sewer as quick as possible. He did grab the ladder right at the end, though. Not a huge deal.
Alright, so coming up here for Kanaris, you're going to see him do a cutscene skip with a double lift. He's going to double lift. Oh, he actually only needs 1 lift. Most runners will double lift that, but you're just high jumping over a trigger so that you don't have to cancel it. Saves a little bit of time.
Yeah, Kanaris very good at doing a lot of the sections with just a delayed lift rather than any sort of double lift strats.
So coming up now on what we know as Let's Play Skip, where you clip out of bounds on that broken little roof right there with the plunge. It helps us get a beeline and skip a couple of cutscene triggers, and can enable him potentially to go for, ooh, he's doing it, MT. We are seeing an attempt at auto-scroller coaster skip.
I'm so hyped right now. Seeing people get this in a race is really amazing, so everybody, cross your fingers.
Fullest is one of the 2 people I know who actually goes for this on a regular basis.
And he gets the hardest part, getting off of the roller coaster before getting stuck.
So honestly, this glitch is too complicated to explain in the time we have here, but just know all these weird looking movements he's doing, going back and forth, are all necessary to make it so that the coaster starts moving, but you don't have to be on it. It's an auto scroller, so it's going to move for a set amount of time, but when he does the full skip correctly, he doesn't actually have to be on the coaster while it moves.
Yeah, just after activating the coaster and right before, he just has to go hit a few triggers in certain locations so that the cutscene will actually start once the roller coaster reaches its destination.
And so you might ask, game, MT, why is he doing this if it's not saving any time? It's just, it still lasts the same amount of time. Well, you're going to see this spear that he picks up is the reason he does it. Picking up this spear allows the new movement tech we sort of alluded to earlier, known as spear dashing. And so that's the purpose of clipping out here, so that he can get this spear and unlock the faster movement.
Yeah, and you'll get to see that, I believe, right after the Bovar fight coming up. So,
speaking of
this fight, it's very important to get a bunch of damage on her right away, but not too fast, or she can sort of do an extra attack that is a bit slow. So Kanaris actually changing his weapon set to include the spear. He is only level 7, so he should not have the issue of doing too much damage too quickly. Yeah, so once you damage her down to threshold, she will actually do that spinning spike attack and stay close to the stage, which is good because she has to get back on it in order to go to the next phase.
Yeah, she actually moves really slow, so when you get her far away, it's super annoying. Alright, coming up on probably the most annoying part of this fight, we're going to see a bunch of crucified androids placed down. But the main enemy of this boss is actually the camera. It's at a really awkward angle, which makes it really hard to see the enemy's attacks coming. And the enemies will shoot out these radial waves that will put you into a little hacking sequence, which loses you like 5 seconds and does additional tilt damage to the minds of the runners.
Oh yeah, since the camera angle's so wonky, they can toss one out just right as they're coming on screen. But awesome job by Kanaris, though. That was very, very fast.
Yeah, and I want to point out that Kanaris there actually does dash swings almost every other runner you're going to see, and I'm sure Fullest is going to use dash punches. Dash punches has traditionally been the strat here, but Kanaris has recently been trying out dash swings and thinks they might be a little bit easier to go fast on that section with. So Kanaris is going to SD here at the end of the fight. Bavara actually has already hit her threshold, so we're not doing it for any damage here. We're just doing it to get ourselves down to low health to set up a skip that's going to happen in a couple of minutes. Not really a skip, just a fast bit of movement.
What is it?
That machine.
And well, I guess we'll see if Kanaris did get a small recovery drop from one of those androids that he killed. I guess one thing that we didn't mention yet is that the game will auto loot items for you and like the cutscenes after the bosses and such.
And fun fact, not only does it auto loot, but it actually will give you 2 of each item that's on the floor there for an unknown glitchy reason.
And here we get to see some amazing movement tech.
Yeah, so he's going to be alternating SDs and heavies to sort of cycle through the attacks of the spear. And keep getting that one that pushes him forward. And this tech is faster than what he was doing before with dash swinging. But it does have a little bit of startup time, so you're going to see him opt not to do it on some really short bits of movement. Yeah, Full is pointing out in chat that he did fire a laser that completely field gold androids.
They originally came here from outer space, right?
Well, there are a few
yeah, Fullest
sure.
falling behind Kanaris here. Kanaris, between getting the spear and increasing his movement, but also just a lot of little things, and Fullest's mistake on the box clip is what's making the difference here.
And Kanaris used a medium recovery. I don't know if he just didn't get a small drop or if he does something different than what I'm used to here coming up.
I think that was a mistake, honestly. I don't think he meant to use a medium recovery. I'm pretty sure, well, in fact, I'm 100% sure that you can actually clip past this box without using an SD. SD just makes it easier.
Oh,
Kanaris,
yeah.
I have seen do it without having to SD before. So I know, see, he didn't even try to actually SD there. So I know he can do it. I think he thought he had a small recovery.
Yeah.
And thought that that his button inputs was gonna give him a small recovery.
Yeah. Self-destruct canceling that plunge there sort of makes it so that the hitbox goes away from the sword, but you keep the momentum. It makes it way easier to squeeze between the two.
Sorry to interrupt you. Cecilia is right. You can't spear dash on low health. So it's actually still worth it for him, even if he doesn't have a small recovery to do it, so that he can maintain spear dashing. And that's because since you can't SD on 1 health, like MT said, you won't be able to use that in spear dashing. Thank you for pointing that out, Cecilia.
Yeah, so he just got unlucky with the small recovery drop. Usually you will get like at least 1 or 2, since it auto loots for you.
So you saw Kanaris hopping around to his heart's content with the boar. It's actually a little bit faster than dashing with the moose, but not a real important part of the speedrun, despite what the community might tell you.
Kanaris going crazy in the chat. Let's see.
Let's see. I wonder what he's going crazy about.
Well, what do you think?
Alright. Ooh, he got double hit with 1 boar dash. That was
very
optimal.
nice. Very nice.
Medium recovery actually not lose him pretty much almost any time.
Nah, that was good.
So we're death warping. When you die in this game, you lose all your experience since you last saved and all your equipped plug-in chips. We haven't equipped any plug-in chips, so we don't lose any of that, and we haven't killed any enemies since we last saved, so we don't lose anything, and it allows us to quickly get back to Pascal's village and continue the story.
Did we mention board jumping?
I did mention that a little bit, that it's a little bit faster, and that's why you see Fullest doing it.
Very, very cool movement.
Really fun, much more fun than just sprinting with a moose.
Oh yeah.
Alright, so this section is a real long section of movement. It's one of the big benefits of spear dashing, although Kanaris might get trolled a little bit by the auto lock on if any moose run near him.
Yeah. The animals
like
like to
there.
sort of just randomly run, and you will auto target them if they're close enough to you and in view of your camera.
Yeah, so you're really seeing on long sections of movement like this, you'll see the effects of spear dashing and why it's saving Kanaris time.
Yeah, no. Let's find another.
Fullest having a little bit of trouble with the boar here. Fullest was also going for a strat where if you like jump off the moose at the same point that that dialogue comes up when you approach the resistance camp, you can actually skip it.
Kanaris falling down off the building, not who he intended, but not a big time loss.
Yeah, he probably just lost the time that he gained from the spear dashing, really.
Okay, so coming up here, after Kanaris scares the building, he's going to just completely ignore the fact that the game wants him to fight angles, and just jump either around or over an invisible wall. There's a little hole that's only around for a couple of seconds, so he's going to try to get there if he can, but if not, he's just going to high jump right over it. We high jump over invisible walls several times during the speedrun.
Was not able to get it. Luckily, Kanaris can actually get over. He can actually get over this invisible wall with just a delayed lift instead of having to do a double lift. That's what I mentioned before, where he's just so optimal with his height gain that he can do it with a delayed lift instead of having to do the lift into a slope to get the double lift.
Although he did miss it the first time, so...
Sure.
Okay, so coming up here, you're going to see another big time save from the pod program. With a ranged attack up, if we nestle ourselves right in the Daddy Angle's shoulder, we can pretty much just insta-kill him with 2 pod programs, one after another.
Yeah, it's not something that you would really think is possible since the missiles sort of come out like in a circle around you, but yeah, you just need to be in just the right spot, and they'll all hit him.
Alright, Kanaris pulling that off well, and Fullest just coming up on it.
Yeah, Fullest can gain a bit of time back if he manages to get that that first clip out where you just do like a double jump and a dash. We'll keep an eye on that.
This is your commander.
Alright, so Kanaris coming up on a... Oh my god.
Falling off the mine.
That was an amazing save. I would be surprised if Kanaris has ever saved that in that exact way before. One thing to note, you know, you would expect it from the world record holder. I have seen Kanaris do lots of weird saves from mistakes that usually when you see a runner make a mistake, they will just you know, sort of fully fail the thing. But Kanaris has a really great reaction time and sort of just knowledge of all his movement available to him.
Recovery knowledge, yeah. Fullest did not get the strat either, but he did get the backup first try with the double lift.
There's nothing like.
All right, so we are in negotiations now. This fight is a timed section. There's nothing they can do to increase or decrease the speed of it, but we can kill Eve once to get some much-needed EXP, and then we can actually just do a clever little high jump over the wall to get out and kill some enemies.
Machines are weapons capable of evolution.
Artemelli, we are running Ending A. This is a tournament for Ending A, the main category that's speedrun for this game.
The intelligence within our network.
Yeah, there is also an all major endings, which is A, B, C, D, and E, which is what, a little under 4 hours.
You destroyed your own creators? Oh, there's no.
But for tournament purposes, this was the best category for sure.
Almost like plants, I guess you'd say. They held no value to us, but the humans on the moon, now they are interesting.
Why them?
Because they.
And Kanaris going for a evade and then a counterattack here, just to gain some more height to start his lifts, heavy jump, heavy, etc. Movement, just to get over that invisible wall. Then he'll get back up on the bridge and do some more. Oh, not quite high enough. That wall is very, very weird. If you don't get enough height, when you go over it, it will revert your camera, and you have to go back and do it again. It's really, I don't know.
Surely you see
That's a really weird invisible wall right there.
We'd never do that. Can you believe this, 2B? This guy's
Kanaris grabbing some materials there. It is possible to upgrade your short sword from level 2 to level 3. The only problem is that you need 4 different kinds of materials, and 2 of them, I believe, are completely random drops from enemies.
Yeah, 2 of them.
So you may or may not see that.
Yeah, it's one of the bigger elements of RNG in the run. Fortunately, it's not actually a incredible time save, and it actually saves a little bit less time for Kanaris versus Fullest. You get a little bit more attack speed, which helps increase your movement, but since Kanaris already has a faster movement option anyway, it'll only help him do some more damage in combat.
They let you transfer your.
Hey, you're up next.
Alright, so Kanaris, you're just seeing mash through some dialogue and go up to the bunker, while Fullest is just chilling out in the negotiations fight, getting ready to do a counterattack evade and jump right out of the arena.
First try as well, very nice. And then you're going to see him do just the same thing that Kanaris did. Hopefully he can get over this barrier first try. Yeah, he does. So we'll see if he grabs the that chest as well.
I believe he will. I believe he will based on watching his past runs. And that jump is actually a little bit tricky, those 3 jumps you have to do there. Not because they're so difficult none of themselves, but the camera just kind of fights you on it and doesn't really look where you want to see.
Oh, Kanaris went for another one of those partner dialogue cancels there. Was a bit too close to the door, so he did grab the trigger. Has to wait out this dialogue, doing some rage self-destructs while he waits for the dialogue to stop so he can warp it back to Pascal's village.
Alright, Fullest finishing negotiations while Kanaris warps back down to Pascal's village. And Pascal's village here is going to be our second and last shopping segment of the run. So after he talks to Pascal, he's going to do several important things. So he's going to sell his buffs and the machine cores that he's picked up to this point in the run, which is going to be 4. And he's going to buy his medium recoveries up to max. He's going to buy offense buffs. And he's going to sell his some of his system chips. It turns out they're actually not all necessary, and he's going to do that to make room for hopefully some offense chips that he'll have picked up earlier in the run.
He is keeping the mini map though, and that's just for a spear clip later on in the run. He looks like he's going to equip his chips right now. He's going to equip that resilience chip.
Ooh,
and
he's got some good ones.
He got some pretty good chips. Definitely good chips for a race. Those crit +1s. Each one of those adds a 2% crit chance, so he has 4% chance to crit total. Crit's doing 5 times damage. So
for a total of an average of 20% damage increase for Kanaris here.
Yeah, and then plus buffs, plus taunting as well.
So in addition, he equipped the resilience chip, which is a really important part of the run as a defensive chip. It means whenever we're above 80% health, we won't get staggered or our animations canceled when we get hit. And that allows us to just sort of face tank enemy attacks, and we'll just heal up right away so that we can just do as much damage as quickly as possible without having to worry about dodging attacks pretty much at all.
Another little, this is one of the more major 9S dialogue cancels right there. That's about 10 seconds or so time save, I believe.
Yeah, it's the biggest one that we do using 9S.
Who the heck is the Forest King?
So let's see what Fullest has in terms of his buffs coming up in a second. And Fullest also going to do a skip that Kanaris did, which we didn't quite get time to explain, known as Mum Skip. And there's a dialogue there between a robot and his mom that we can just jump right over. Kanaris doing a delayed lift, Fullest most likely using a double lift for it.
Fullest checking the weapon upgrade shop to see if he can get VC3. Unfortunately, he did not get those lucky drops. Attempting to get a double lift off of this ramp. It's actually very, very hard to get a double lift off of this ramp.
Better keep your guard up.
Harder on PS4 also, so if any of you are aspiring PS4 runners, keep that in mind. We don't really know why. Ooh, Fullest failing Mum Skip. But for whatever reason, double lifts are more difficult on the PlayStation 4. We think it has to do with frame rate. All the physics in this game are tied to frame rate in ways that we don't quite understand. It's not as simple as just good frame rate. You know, all 60 FPSs are not actually created equal.
Yeah. Even if you just have slight FPS issues, it can make things like bridge skip like nearly impossible.
Nearly impossible.
Yep.
Alright, so Kanaris gonna do a strat we know as Rainbow Road, which is a slightly faster version of a thing here we used to do called Mario Kart. But it's actually much simpler, so he just does a long jump using some of the movement tech we have available. We actually have even more distance gaining tech. It's kind of insane the amount of distance that we can get in this game if we combine everything.
And then another quick clip out of bounds there with a dash punch between the root and the wall there, and that just enables us to skip going through the castle completely. They can just use these windows here to climb up to the transporter that has a trigger nearby.
The windows are placed at such perfect intervals, it almost feels like they wanted us to do that.
Yoko Taro knew about the speedruns that were coming.
Speedruns. All right, so we're coming into the A2 fight. Kanaris doing a quick little, nice pod launch there to skip a really long slow walk that we would have to do.
Yeah, if you do that normally, 2B does a slow walk for about 10 seconds probably before she reaches the cradle there.
Annihilation.
So there's a lot of variability that could happen on this fight with A2. So hopefully for Kanaris, he won't get trolled too hard. A2 loves to do an attack where she dashes off screen and won't let us hit her.
Yeah, and there she runs away one time. Kanaris using slow-mo, hoping to get some good crits. He does. You want to just try and get her locked down and just get lucky with some good crits.
Alright, doing Kanaris right there, executing what is actually deceptively one of, if not the largest skip in the entire run, which is just jumping over a dialogue trigger, or a sort of invisible wall, I should say, not a dialogue trigger, that it will force us into a dialogue and force us to walk back. The game wants us to jump out the window after A2. By doing that, we can skip a huge amount of dialogue that happens if you jump out the window.
Oh yeah, there's like 90 seconds or so of dialogue before you can actually access the transporter and go back to Pascal's village.
Fullest coming up on Rainbow Road and
having
a bit of trouble setting it up. You actually have to be already holding the jump button down at the start of the skip.
Oh.
Fullest failing it again.
Misses the pod launch there.
He's actually going to go, he's going to say screw it and go back for Mario Kart. So we'll get to see that here. So right up in that corner there is he failed Mario Kart
Started self-destructing a little too early, looks like. Or his angle was a bit off on the plunge. You want to plunge in this corner, and then once you get in there, then you start self-destructing, which will keep your momentum so that you go right underneath the bridge. So you respawn there.
Yeah, we call it Mario Kart because a lot of skips in the Mario Kart series revolve around hitting a trigger so that Lakitu will put you back at a further portion, and we do the same thing there. We're just hitting a different box and then using SD to preserve our momentum so we don't go back to the old one, so that we can get put up there. Alright, Kanaris clipping out of bounds at the Resistance camp and going to do a two-part skip known as Flooded City skip. It's a really cool piece of speed tech that the community found out, where you can actually hit that trigger from below and void out, so we can go all the way back up high and then plunge down to the end of this Flooded City section and drown warp right to where we need to be for combat.
Very nicely done by Kanaris.
Really cool looking skip as Fullest comes up in the A2 fight. Alright, this fidget spinner here, that's what we call the flying enemies, can sometimes troll you. So Kanaris, yeah, getting a little bit trolled. That's why he tries to kill it as quick as he can.
Didn't lose very much time there.
Didn't lose too much time.
At all there.
The big troll it can do is sometimes it just flies away out of position if you don't kill it fast enough. The spinning attack just gets you some accidental perfect evades and loses a little bit of time. Kanaris there actually, by doing the Flooded City skip, he avoided a dialogue trigger that was back on that building, and so he can use it to cancel out the dialogue trigger from the end of that combat. It turns out the end of the dialogue trigger cancels the flight units coming, so that's why you sort of saw him go back, and then the flight units just come out of nowhere. Alright, so as May points out in chat, Kanaris is coming up on the big Resonant Sleeper section of the run known as Grun. It starts out with a Shmup section where your inputs still matter, but soon enough he will move into an auto-scroller where it's about a 15-minute long section where there's very little you can do to gain or lose time.
Yeah, they have to take out 3 shield generators, and those are pretty much the only places where time can be lost. So we'll see.
So I've said it before, guys. You guys got to go to the bathroom, take a nap, make some quesadillas, build a table. Now is the time to do any of those things because it's not the most interesting. So I definitely heavily will recommend watching Fullest perform the awesome Flooded City skip and coming back to Kanaris when either they both are on Grun or Kanaris finishes Grun.
While Fullest is loading here, I'll just mention that there is a bounty for finding a way to skip this section, this Shmup section here. If you can find a way to reliably skip this, I think the bounty is up to $2,200, a homemade curry pizza, a caffeinated alcoholic beverage. So all that can be yours if you can find a way to skip this section.
Oh, and in addition, the undying gratitude of the community, and we will certainly name the skip after you if you want. I don't care if your name is XXX420 Blaze It every day XX. We will call the skip that if you manage to find it, because we all hate Grun. It's an auto-scroller where most of the time loss that's possible is actually due to RNG with the generator spinning poorly. So combining the 2 worst enemies of speedrunners.
Absolutely. We'll see how Fullest shore fight goes here. Grabs the trigger no problem, the cutscene. So we'll see how his fight goes here. Sometimes these robots can be a little tricky. If you lock on too soon, you'll lock on to one that's farther back rather than the big one. So that can be a bit annoying. Oh, looks like Fullest getting a big crit there from that plunge. So very nice fidget spinner. And this mini boss that Kanaris is on here, you just buff up, do 2 pod programs, spam pod fire and heavy attacks. Once the pod program cooldowns are done, 2 more pod programs will take him out. So very, very, very easy fight.
Enemy aerial unit destroyed. Reverting back to area recon.
Wait, I'm still picking up a large enemy presence.
Didn't I kill that already?
Alright, Fullest entering Grun himself. So we are in the full official Resident Sleeper section for about, I don't know, what would you say, another 10 minutes here?
I don't know, probably about 7 minutes for Kanaris. 6 or 7 maybe. He's very, very fast, even though it's an auto-scroller. And this section that Fullest is doing, you still want to kill these enemies when you're in this camera view as quickly as possible. But once the camera changes, that's when the sort of just auto-scroller cutscene section starts.
Yeah, Carl Grun is a big slow boy. That's not. I mean, that is a joke, but that is actually the first name of the philosopher. All the bosses in this game are named after philosophers. And Grun's first name is actually Carl. So
I did not know that.
Yeah, not just my own personal nickname for him.
Yeah, that's one of the only ones that I didn't know, I think.
Yeah, I actually don't know anything about the philosopher himself other than his first name is Carl. So if anyone in chat wants to enlighten me as to what sort of philosophy he talked about, go ahead, because that's much more interesting than this boring section of what is otherwise a really entertaining and fun speedrun.
Yeah, some light philosophy discussion. Definitely a lot more interesting than this section of the game.
I mean, one of my favorite things to do during Grun is toss out my controversial opinions about the speedrun.
Oh, hot takes about
Try
speedrun.
and
Yeah.
anger people. All right, so glitchless is a category, not what we're running here, but that some people run. And Skype glitch is allowed in glitchless, while pod slow-mo, what is in a completely intended mechanic of the game, as far as I can tell, is disallowed. I don't run the category, so they can do whatever they want, but I think they got some things backwards.
I would say broadly that I agree.
I understand why Skype glitch is allowed, because there's a lot of random ways to trigger it, but it's got the word glitch in its name, and we do know how to avoid it. And pod slow-mo, there's just no indication to me at all that it's not a fully intended mechanic. I don't think they envisioned people refreshing it, but they never envisioned us, jumping high or, just, half the things that we do. I mean, speedrunners, they don't design the game for speedrunners, so just because it's not the way that they envisioned the run, envisioned gameplay. I think they thought we were going to do side quests too, but that doesn't mean it's a glitch to them.
I think my opinion on that is that people spend more time arguing about glitchless rules than actually running the category. So that's
well, I mean,
that's all I'll say about that.
I am following in the classic trap where someone complains about the category of glitchless when they are not a glitchless runner, and all the glitchless runners are actually happy with what's going on.
Sure.
So that is a classic speedrun trap. Don't do this, guys. You are only allowed to have these opinions during Grun, and during non-Grun sections. Those opinions are really just crap.
Yeah, we need some hot takes during these boring sections.
Hunter Squadron deploying out of North 12C Defense HQ.
Anyway, so Kanaris did kill the first shield generator. There are 4 nodes on it, and you can hit 2 of them at a time on opposite sides. If you're not fast enough killing both of them, it will rotate and can potentially rotate a full 180 degrees, even if you kill the second one right as it starts turning. So that's basically the time loss in these shield generators.
All the EMP shielding in the world won't help against close-range mortar fire.
Got it.
I'll help aim.
Alright, so this section that Kanaris is doing is a little weird. The timing can be a little bit finicky for when you want to hit Grun, so most runners just sort of spam some shots and then try to time it a little bit off 9S's dialogue.
That was a really interesting shot there by Kanaris. I know what a lot of people do is fire right as 9S is finishing saying the word approach, and then you can just spam it from there, and it's pretty early. I'm not sure if what Kanaris is actually faster than that, but it might be.
I've had no success with the CH timing, by the way.
Oh, really?
So I should try out whatever Kanaris just did there.
That could be like a frame rate thing as well.
I think it's a jump the gun type thing.
Oh, yeah,
where
maybe.
I'm just so bored by Grun, I can't wait long enough. But I really don't want to make it seem like this is a wonderful speedrun. I think it's a really fun speedrun that's actually not too difficult. You've seen a lot of skips, but most of them only save small amounts of time. So you can have a time that you can feel decent about and just incorporate the skips as you learn them. The Discord is extremely helpful. I see quite frequently people who are learning the run and real experienced runners from the Discord. If you just stream your practice or your learning, will come in and help you. Makes it a lot easier to learning the run. There's a lot of good guides, video tutorials on the skips in the run and the general combat of it.
Fullest getting a bit trolled there. You saw it rotated the full 180 degrees because he didn't kill the second node quickly enough, which is just a big time loss, like I mentioned.
Yeah, it's, I talked out earlier about how the time loss is mostly due to RNG.
Yeah.
So
it's the execution is just hard to sort of mitigate that luck by like making sure that you kill it fast enough. It's just like the whole rest of the segments just sort of, it's not really important, but then you just mess up that one thing and lose time. It's just a little tilting.
Yeah, and there's some fighting camera angles up in there too.
Oh, yeah. I think the camera angles are different for each one, so
Yeah.
you need like different stick positions and ones that you think should work. Sometimes just don't. Yeah, it's
Yeah, Platinum Games going, hey guys, if it's a different camera angle, that makes it you know, varied and fun gameplay, right?
I think the first two are okay. It's just the camera angles that you need, or the joystick angles that you need for the third one seem a bit wonky.
Yeah, but you know, so there is actually, you know, despite we've been saying about this auto scroller, they actually, well, just as I say, this Kanaris is spinning around and getting hit. They do want to try a little bit, because they do want to make sure they get these kills for the experience. If the enemies goes off screen, or if in the sections when NieR is around, if he takes any of your kills.
Yep.
Kanaris
Yeah,
kind of flying in my face, talking about actually having to try in this section though. So.
Well, once NieR takes off, you don't really have to worry about him stealing your kills. He can actually steal the kill on that first shield generator if you're not fast enough, which can cost you quite a bit of experience.
May talking in chat about raspberry plants making tea, and I think that actually sounds really good. I'd be interested. Does it taste like raspberries, May?
I did not actually know that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed. I don't even know if I know what a raspberry plant looks like, to be perfectly honest with you.
Assuming it's not a meme.
Assuming I didn't fall into some, you know, Urban Dictionary horrible reference here.
Last shield generator for Kanaris. Looks like he got the first two nodes fine. Uses a pod program. Oh, gets trolled. Oh man. Ugh.
Yeah, when they get trolled, they use the missile, because when it's not in plane, you can't hit it with the Gatling. Gatling does more damage, we use it most of the time, but missile can actually hit them when they're out of plane there.
Missiles do the auto lock-on thing, so useful in very, very specific situations.
Alright guys, it's time to celebrate. Grun is over, for Kanaris at least. 104 coming out of Grun is a reasonable time here.
That's good.
Yeah. Reasonable, quote unquote. I mean, it's you know, Kanaris is an extremely talented runner.
It's a really good time, guys.
Yeah, it's a really good time, but Kanaris has high standards. So Kanaris doing a drown warp. Ooh, he made it there. It looked a little weird at the end there, but
yeah, that void out is kind of tricky to learn. Sometimes you'll think that you've gone far enough, but it just puts you back right where you started, and you're not quite sure why. It can be. That's sort of one of the more frustrating ones.
Ooh, Kanaris missing the second drown warp, but
I talk about the first one, and it's actually the second. Yeah, that second one, he just tried to cut it as close as possible. It was a bit voided out a bit too soon.
Yeah. Okay, so Kanaris is now gonna go and get into position for a clip known as Copied City Clip. It's the most precise skip in the run. Although if you use, there's a keyboard and mouse lineup, which makes it not the most difficult. Kanaris, though, actually says screw that and goes for an extremely difficult lineup based on a barely visible scuff mark on the floor. Just to show off how good he is.
And he does it with
but
the
he gets it
very
right
nice.
away, so...
Nicely done. Yeah, we can use keyboard and mouse there, just so, you know, if you hold W, you get that consistent just directly forward input. Some controllers are easier than others to maintain that very specific, like, just straightforward input.
I really want to emphasize, guys, how difficult what Kanaris just did was, though. Using a not keyboard and mouse lineup, that skip is insanely precise. You need to hold a very specific angle in order to get it, so...
What's with the corpses?
Yeah, like the most random texture lineup ever.
Alright, so we're coming up on the mansplaining section of the run. Adam thinks that he knows better, that 2B as a woman can't possibly understand the nature of humanity.
Oh, wow.
So, we just want to get right out of there. Kanaris is actually going to use his spear to clip out and go all the way over to his elevator. He uses the spear, you can do it, and you'll see Fullest do it with a plunge on the sword. And Adam just won't shut up, so we gotta just take this elevator out of here. Although we're actually not going to take that out of here, because we do that, we'll unload Copied City and soft lock the game. But what we're going to do is briefly get into the elevator to trigger some dialogue, to trigger Adam's longest section of dialogue to end in a similar manner to the partner dialogue skips.
Yeah, you actually have a bit of a leniency to actually make sure that you get your lineup right for that clip, because as you saw, Kanaris waited for a very specific point of dialogue before he went in there and canceled it, because Adam actually has 3 sets of dialogue, and if you go in there too early, you'll cancel the second one, and he'll still have the third one, which is the longest one, and we save I don't know, what, like about 45 seconds or so by skipping that last long chunk of dialogue.
Yeah, you gotta wait for the right moment, and only then can you go into the elevator.
Nice one.
I don't have time for you.
Alright, so on this first section of Adam that Kanaris is doing, as soon as you trigger 2B to start talking, it's just waiting for the dialogue to finish, and then one more hit on Adam will send him to the next phase.
Yeah, you just want to make sure that he doesn't warp away and be untargetable once that dialogue's done. Can be kind of annoying sometimes.
Alright, so now we're going to throw out some damage glitches, and Kanaris is actually also using slow-mo mid-combat to make sure Adam doesn't get annoying attack animations that would mess with
he has some bad ones.
Glitches.
And additionally, a lot of these bosses, from Adam on, can actually two-shot you if they are taunted and you don't have defensive buffs, so locking them down with slow-mo is very, very helpful.
Kanaris, one of, if not the only runner who actually runs without the defensive buffs. Almost every other runner does it for specifically that reason that MG just mentioned, that bosses, we are really under-leveled at this point, and the bosses can really mess you up.
I definitely don't buy the buffs. Go big or go home.
Oh, you don't? Let's go, MG.
I can't handle that time loss.
I don't
Man,
think I haven't
all
seen
that
anyone else
extra
skip them.
menuing, I can't do it. Just heal.
Kanaris doing a sort of version of the partner dialogue skip where he jumped and talked to somebody at the same time as he entered a dialogue, which skips actually extremely long dialogue from the commander. I think it's with the commander. I forget who the dialogue's with, but it's
commander. Yes. Yeah. That's just useful because you can check the mailbox at the transporter at the resistance camp and start this dialogue that's playing right now, so that by the time you get to factory, Pascal is already there waiting for you. If you let that dialogue play out, you have to pick it up from the transporter that's by that broken highway, and you actually make it to factory before it's done, so you have to wait for Pascal to spawn in.
Sounds good.
Yep, so we are coming up here on Kanaris' screen. Ooh, actually, let's watch Fullest, see if he can get... He's having a little bit of difficulty here with mansplaining.
Okay. Yeah, this is a very tight lineup as well.
He's aiming too far to the left, I can tell. There we go.
Yeah, I think some people use a slightly upright control stick angle for that. I use keyboard personally, so my lineup's a little different, but it looks like...
Oh god, Kanaris.
Looks like
I disapprove.
What did he do? I missed it.
So Kanaris does a strat that I disapprove of. Anyone in chat, if you have not learned the run, do not do that skip. It's in this game, for whatever reason, they programmed if you attempt to upskirt 2B, she will swat the camera. Despite it seeming like a discouragement, it's actually an encouragement because you get an achievement for it to upskirt 2B. And it's actually very slightly faster during that slow walk to repeatedly upskirt 2B and have her swat the camera. But I disapprove. It's not worth the time save. Save your souls, guys. It's not worth removing your purity for a fraction of a second of time gain.
Upskirt strats all day. Gotta save the frames.
Kill the animals. Or save the animals. Save the animals. What am I talking about? Alright, so Kanaris gonna do another partner dialogue cancel in this elevator here. It works a little bit differently. It's not actually gonna cancel out his partner dialogue, but it'll prevent Pascal from blabbering and stopping the next room from loading as quickly as it can.
Yeah, I think it's about a 7-second time save just by skipping that one little bit of dialogue. The next area loads a little faster because of that.
Alright guys, so we are coming up on another extremely condensed section of skips here, known as the Deep Factory. So we're in Mook's room up here, so this is way high up. And what first happens is we're gonna have to fight a bunch of Mooks, but Kanaris is gonna attempt to use slow-mo to keep them away from him, and then clip out of the room. When he clips out, he's gonna fall really far down, and that's actually gonna despawn the Mooks. which will allow him to open the elevator and progress to the next section.
Yeah, this factory section's going to go very, very fastly. But yeah, Fullest did not manage to get the dialogue pulled up, so he did start the dialogue with the commander. So you'll see what I mentioned before, where he has to check the mail from the transporter that's by the broken highway up here.
Yeah, Kanaris actually getting second try. You only get 2 tries if your slow-mo's good, maybe 3. I'm not sure if Kanaris' slow-mo's good enough to get 3, but before the enemies get too close, an auto-lock on screws you up. So Kanaris is now in 9S room, where we want to go back up to Mook's room, because Mook's room's high up and we can do a lot there, but the game won't let us. So we clip out and we void out, get far enough away that it thinks we're somewhere else, and it actually unlocks the elevator for us. It closes the doors and we can actually use it again to get back up high. The reason that we go back up high is so that we can plunge down and do some quick movement. So he's going to plunge down and attempt to get a trigger that's required to progress in the factory. You're going to see it here, plunge. He's going to do some SDs to stop him from going into slow fall. Then he's going to hold on to this pod and hit the trigger so that he voids out and goes all the way back up after hitting the trigger. So we can do these plunges and skip all the way to the end of factory. Very nice.
I'm sad to say, but there is a chance to soft lock right there. If you don't gain enough distance and you don't quite make it over that wall, you can actually get stuck there and soft lock. I think, unless Kanaris dies somewhere...
Kanaris pretty much has soft lock at this point. I actually think he's got enough of a lead that he can
die. Yeah,
a death, depending on unless he dies at some really bad spot that loses him a lot. Like maybe if he dies on Soshi. I'm not sure where that sends you, actually.
It sends you to Resistance Camp. Oh, wait,
yeah,
no. Soshi, I don't actually know where that sends you.
Yeah, regardless, would it be pretty shocking if he died to Soshi. There is actually a possible soft lock if you high jump over this bridge instead of getting stuck on it, like you see Kanaris do. But he didn't do it, and he's just going to chill up here at the bridge so he doesn't have to dodge Soshi's attacks while he's invulnerable. So Cecilia is saying that if you die to Soshi, it puts you right outside the boss fight, so even that, Kanaris could, is still enough ahead. You know, I didn't want to mention it, I didn't want to discourage anyone before the beginning of the run, but Kanaris has actually not posted a single time in this tournament that's slower than Fullest's PB, despite Fullest having the 5th best PB of anyone in the world, just to give you an idea of how good Kanaris is at this game.
Yeah, his consistency is unreal.
Alright, so he can hit Soshi now, and he's going to attempt to use slow-mos and DDG in order to get a 0 cycle on Soshi to kill him before he gets any attacks. He doesn't quite get it here, but the goal would be to do that so that, because Soshi can't die until the end of one of his attack animations when he curls up in a ball.
Yeah, and that's true for a lot of bosses, that they have to finish whatever attack animation that they were doing before they actually progressed to, like, you know, the death animation or the next phase.
Ooh, so Full is saying in chat, I just noticed that he's having massive frame rate issues. That's really bad. Not only if you're running at 5/6 of the frame rate are you just 5/6 slower, but in addition it really breaks the physics of the game and makes gaining height from jumps extremely difficult. And if it can eat your inputs as well, so running on a lower frame rate is pretty much a death sentence to any runner.
Kanaris kept his map chip here just so he could get a very specific angle to use the spear to clip out of bounds here. This is going to that same section that we saw in Prologue, those 2 out of bounds clips. But doing that clip out of bounds with the spear does save a bit of time if you get it first try. Looks like it did take him a few tries, but still a very, very cool looking out of bounds.
Yeah, although for anyone who hasn't been extremely up on the NieR Automata speed tech, there was actually a little time save if you don't do Shabu skip, that Kanaris just did, which makes it so Shabu skip, despite being extremely difficult, saves even less time compared to the alternative strats.
No thanks.
I believe we'll see Fullest do that when he gets there. He'll do the new, easier strat.
I'm heading back to the resistance camp. What about you?
Yeah, we'll see how Fullest does with Factory here.
I see.
Yeah, this can be kind of tricky because you can't jump too late or too early, or if you jump too late, you land on the ground. If you jump too early, you don't actually fall down far enough before you void out. So very, very tricky. Oh, I haven't seen that
I'm really
before.
glad he didn't soft block, but Fullest actually falling too early and not quite making it where he wanted to do in V2 there. Doesn't actually lose an insane amount of time since he just voided out, but there's a lot of potential to land on some weird geometry and soft block there, which would, I mean, he kind of
that's a little bit scary,
over, but you want to see him finish. All right, so with Soshi here that Kanaris has already finished and is coming up on, we enter the boss rush portion of the game where no more movement skips, no more real fancy tech, just outside of combat. It's all just focusing on good combat here with different strats for different bosses and even a phase skip coming up on the very final boss.
So this section can be a bit annoying. These larger shield bipeds can sometimes get a very long death animation. There's one death animation that's very long. It's the one that Kanaris just got from that one. So if more than one of those, or like 3 or 4, get that animation, you definitely lose a good chunk of time.
Kanaris actually going too fast and getting some robots to spawn behind him there.
Yeah, it's usually not a big deal. Having that shield guy behind you is better than having a stuppy behind you who will just try and just whirly arms you and interrupt your damage glitches.
Alright, so this fight is actually really scary without defense buffs, because you can see the ground shocks you. He can do a lot of attacks like that ranged one that can do damage kind of out of nowhere, but Kanaris is having no trouble with it and just blazing through. Still needs to wait for Bokushi here to do his vacuum attack before he can kill him, but he gets it right quick, no problem.
Yeah, Bokushi doing an attack right before dying, and that attack can two-shot you very easily if you don't heal right away.
Kanaris dragging this first core here up on the hill to make sure he's in a good spot for damage glitches. If you leave him on flat ground, it can be kind of hard to hit him with the full damage glitches there. And Kanaris making short work of that boss. Fullest just finishing Soshi and starting the movement at the end of the factory.
They're still
probably about to do that new strat I'm talking about rather than the extremely difficult Shabu skip that Kanaris did.
2B, can you hear me? Our village is under...
Pascal? Come in, Pascal!
Kanaris just making his way to take out some enemies that are near Pascal's village and fight this other little mini-boss coming up.
Yep, and the boss right after the enemy can definitely be a little troll if you don't kill him quickly, so Kanaris is going to do his best to use slow-mo to stop the boss from potentially trolling him.
It seems the machines on the network have gone berserk.
There's also a little partner dialogue cancel right after this if he can do that quickly enough.
Yeah, as soon as this core dies, he has to self-destruct and talk to 9S. I think it saves around like 4 seconds.
Ooh, did he? Yeah, he did get it. So the core 2 started doing an attack, but Kanaris was able to do enough damage. If you don't kill it quickly, sometimes it will drop its core on top of the fence, which won't let you damage glitch it. Colloquially known as Fullest Fence, named after our beloved runner who just finished the Deep Factory.
Yeah, that's one of the more famous like instances of bad luck in this.
Alright, Kanaris here entering the final boss, Eve. The first phase of Eve has a potentially large time loss if you allow him to get an attack known as platforms. If he's between a certain health threshold, I believe it's 70 and 30% roughly, he can do platforms, but Kanaris is pod soulming the ever-living hell out of Eve and not letting him do it. So
Yeah,
now,
nicely done.
yeah, really nicely done. Eve is attempting to enter his second phase, but if you use enough slow-mo, you can delay his animation, delay his healing, and you gotta use your spinning swords to get hit lag to delay his healing. That if he hasn't full healed before the end of that dialogue, Kanaris actually was not able to get it.
Yeah, didn't quite get it. Didn't look like he got enough crits, really. Crits help out a lot there.
Yeah, but not for the reason you would actually think. The damage is actually not that relevant. It's mostly that crits cause additional hit lag.
Ah.
One of our resident strat finders, Remote Mine, actually showed me you can do that strat at level 1, despite level 1 severely handicapping your damage, because it's all about the hit lag delaying.
Ah, just if you get crits and stuff? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
well, crit, no, you
or
don't
is
lose,
it...
no crit chips level 1. It's
wow.
still, it is possible with very good use of slow-mo. Not easy though, as you can see, Kanaris with both crit chips and level 19 still was not able to get it. A hard part of the run, that's for sure. Alright, so you're gonna see him use buffs and taunt Eve here and try to... Kanaris does a strat that not everybody does, where he pod launches into Eve to try to stagger him. Ooh. And then going for... Oh! Kanaris not getting it. We try to use an SD there for the finishing damage, because that's
looks
faster
like
than our other
this
options.
Could be a death. Nope.
No, he doesn't die.
He was able to heal before Eve attacked him again.
Sometimes Eve will just put out a continuous string of range attacks, which
Oh
will
my
one-shot you no
god.
matter how fast you try to heal. Oh!
Oh!
Guys, he died. He's still gonna win cleanly because it's just gonna put him back to the beginning of the phase, but he's not gonna be happy about dying there. While Fullest accidentally cuts off a leg on Bokushi, which actually prevents him from finishing his animation and dying.
Yeah, that's definitely the strat that I think a lot of people use in the casual playthrough, but in speedruns you want to avoid downing his leg.
Kanaris gonna have to repeat this phase, and it actually does not have his plug-in chips anymore since he died. So you never know, guys. We might see massive chokes here from Kanaris, just a string of repeated deaths that allow Fullest to come back.
I think he's looking... Oh. Nicely done. Does a pod launch right into Eve right before he shot at the those projectiles, and that pod launch will sort of stun him out of doing that attack. Looks like he's going to try self-destruct again. Nope, he's just gonna...
No, he's just gonna go for safe strats. He knows that he would need to massively choke to lose this run, so there's no reason. We're coming up almost on the end of the run here, guys.
Close range combat no longer operable.
Here, all he can do is walk, pod fire, and heal and use buffs. So really not that much going on. I guess he can taunt as well. But after he finishes this phase of Eve, we will be completely done with inputs for the run. And Kanaris will be our victor.
Yeah, Eve... Oh, okay, Eve being somewhat nice at the end, coming kind of close. You have to actually approach Eve before this cutscene starts, so... Not too bad.
So congratulations to Kanaris on winning the race against Fullest. I think Kanaris is actually going to wind up saying he's unhappy with his time, despite he won the race, because of that death there at the end. But still an extremely solid run that is going to wind up, just to give you an idea, it's going to wind up being good enough for, I think, what, 4th place on the leaderboard here? Third place on the leaderboard this run would be good enough for. So, and if you don't count the fact that he's first, so if this was his PB, he would be 2nd on the leaderboard with this time. To give you an idea of at a time Kanaris would be not super happy with. Still managed to get sub 126 though.
Yeah, very nice. Even with the death, still getting sub 126.
Eve in with the death.
Even.
I'm actually glad, despite him not being the underdog, I'm glad Kanaris wins here. Fullest actually has to, as we explained earlier, has to leave the country soon. So if Fullest won, he actually would have to wind up forfeiting the finals, which would have been too bad.
Yeah. And we will get to see Kanaris get his rematch race against Blue Metal that we didn't actually get to have the first time around, so that's going to be pretty awesome.
Kanaris slept through his winner's bracket race, if you're wondering why Kanaris is down here in losers bracket.
Of course, he still has to win another race before that, though, so...
Fullest here getting
We'll
the
see.
face hit that Kanaris didn't. Fullest is a better player than Kanaris confirmed. Not sure why the timer doesn't reflect that, but I suspect Fullest will also not die here, so he'll just be double better.
Yeah, resistance buffs making it very, very hard to get killed by Eve's projectiles without the range.
SD shenanigans, though.
Yeah.
SD shenanigans can kill you no matter how defensively buffed you are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, decided to bail on that one a little bit too risky. That should work. Yeah, there we go. Nicely done.
Alert. NFCS destroyed. Close range combat no longer honorable.
And since we sort of get put into the SD state anyway, and a self-destruct there is very, very useful. Does a lot of damage. Eve being a bad boy, staying very, very far away from Fullest here.
Not letting him just end the race, put him out of his misery. Fullest is not going to be happy with this race either, due to the several spaghetti instances here. So shortly after Fullest finishes the race here, guys, we're going to try to get both our runners here into chat to have some discussion. Yeah, I see, Blue, he could still crash. Kanaris attempting to jinx, kick him in while he's down, try to bait Fullest's game into having one of the plethora of issues that NieR Automata sometimes can give runners, but giving neither of our great runners here today.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we've even had a crash during this entire tournament.
Oh, we have had crashes.
Did we?
Boy, have we had crashes. Yeah, Dotto versus Kanaris. In most recent memory.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we have had some crashes, which have been pretty disappointing to see. But not here, not deep in the bracket so far.
Yeah, I think a lot of the people left have sort of enough experience with, like, I guess, just the weirdness of the game that they kind of know sort of how to have their system setups to, like, minimize those crashing chances.
Oh, there's no minimizing. But anyways, Kanaris, Fullest, what is up? What are your thoughts on that piece of pasta, otherwise known as Fullest's run?
GG.
Kanaris just coming barely under 126.
Yeah. I was only 40 seconds behind going into Eve.
So it was a nice Shabu skip.
Those crashing chances.
Yeah, it was
no
okay.
minimizing, but anyways, Kanaris, Fullest, what is up? I'm getting some double
what are your
audio
thoughts
here.
on
Yeah, we just have to. There we go.
Here we go.
So it was the letterboxing that prevented you from healing that, like, carried over from the...
Yeah, I think so. Because I killed him and he was doing the spam attack, and I was definitely trying to heal non-stop during that. And then I
Kanaris is
just
finding
died.
all sorts of fun new ways to die.
Yeah, I know, it's great.
I wish I'd seen it. Chat seemed to be like, what's going on? And I was busy doing something else. I don't remember what I was at that.
I think you were fighting Bokushi.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Requires some focus.
Yeah, I found a bunch of interesting things this run.
What else you find, Kanaris?
Well, I got double hit by the boar at resistance.
Yeah,
camp.
that was awesome.
I didn't even get punished for using a medium recovery. It was amazing.
Yeah, that was really,
Didn't
really
know
cool.
that was possible.
Neither. I've never seen it.
That's cool.
The boar is wonderful for the speedrun in many ways.
Hmm. I wonder if it's only the big boar that can do that. Fullest, how did your run go?
This run was one of many moving targets. The first half hour, I was just trying to make sure I was ahead of Kanaris' stream delayed shadow. When I started falling behind that, I just wanted to at least stay within the same section of the run as Kanaris' stream delayed shadow. And when I started failing that, I just wanted sub 130. At least I got something.
You got sub 130.
Yay! This was probably the most awful run I've had in a while.
I like the field goal laser strats on Bovar. That's a new one. I haven't seen that before.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I've been
thank
trying
you.
to do that, but the accuracy is obviously pretty tough to pull off because, I mean, you saw my second laser, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean with the
Complete
field goal.
whiff.
Yeah, you got
didn't
one
know you
android on one
could
side,
whiff.
one android on the other.
Yeah. If you do it well, you get all of them, I think. But I've never actually pulled it off yet.
It is a nice strat.
Yeah. Oh well. Such is life.
Yeah, but Kanaris, you were actually doing quite well up until Eve. What do you remember what your time losses were pre-Eve, besides maybe a little bit of like movement stumbles?
Copied City, I think I lost time. Oh yeah, I messed up the drown warp going to Copied City, so there's that.
Oh yeah, you did mess up that drown warp.
And then
Got a really good clip in mansplaining though.
I think Core 2 had an extra rotation or something.
yeah,
The shield generator, the second one.
yeah, and then I lost like 20 seconds on the angle split. Also, I got double angles there for some reason. Like two
Yeah, that
angles
was weird.
spawned on the angle skip angles.
Really?
Wait, we didn't even notice that on commentary. Sorry, chat, for not pointing out.
Yeah, I said in chat because Marbles was celebrating me getting punched off the vine by angles, and then I said there were two angles.
Weird.
Yeah,
What?
they just spawned on top of each other.
What
and I
possibly
just flew
causes
onto their legs? I think it's something to do with loading into the zone, but we've seen it before, I think.
It's a glitchy section of the run between the
Yeah.
9S insta-kill glitches and multiple angles. And
I've seen it where the angles that you skip just didn't spawn. So that's happened before.
Yeah. And then sometimes you can get two angles on the second angles. So you kill one and then the other one's still there. It's
Game
really
is
strange.
weird.
Yeah. Overall, the run was pretty nice. Prologue was 1431, which isn't anything I want to talk about.
no punches though. For
Really?
either runner.
I got sub 15 prologue and I'm pretty happy with that. I mean,
Nice.
Alright, so what this run means, guys, is that should Kanaris make it to Fullest, he will win there. Fullest having to leave the country, so would have to forfeit anyway. So if Kanaris can win his next race, he will make it into the grand finals.
Yay.
But if you guys are Fullest fans out there, pray for a Kanaris loss. Although it will just mean Fullest gets second, because he will advance to grand finals but be unable to play in grand finals.
Well, wait.
no, it would be whoever
If someone else
gets
gets the
losers
Fullest,
final.
yeah.
Yeah, so if
Fullest will
someone
be
else
third.
makes it to
If I
Fullest,
think.
oh, that's true. He will get third.
I would take third. Yeah.
He will get third.
So we'll still have a grand final.
Okay, so we'll still have a grand finals either way. All right,
Yay.
that's. Anything else you guys want to add? Fullest, MT, Kanaris?
Thanks guys
I'm
for
good.
commenting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. It's always fun to commentate a nice high-level run.
especially
Oh, yeah.
given the short notice. So appreciate that a lot, guys.
No problem. Thanks
Thank
for
you, MT, for
putting on the race.
co-commentating.
Absolutely, thank you as well.
Thank you to Speed Gaming, like MT was saying, for putting on the race, and thank you to everybody in chat for showing up and hanging out with us, especially during Grun. Alrighty, I think that's a wrap.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
See yous.